Hey there, so today we have another video, and this is another update on the advanced Cicerone content. And yeah, so I did, obviously did a video of me before taking the test, immediately first impressions after taking the test. I announced to you guys that I passed, but with a little bit more time. This is about my journey on how I passed the advanced Cicerone written exam. It's definitely not a journey that I think I would recommend for most people, and then also just not something that most people can do because it's just everybody's different. So I'm going to go through what specifically I did, and then afterwards I'm going to go through what I recommend, at least. So what did I do? I will say the one thing probably surprising people, I didn't read a single whole book to pass the advanced exam. And I think that just comes with the amount of knowledge that I sort of started off with. I felt that I passed certified with a good amount of confidence. I was like over 90. Or it's like 92 or 93 was my score. And that was 5 years ago. And then since then, I've listened to like every episode of multiple beer podcasts. And that's like sort of me building my knowledge. I also was part of a study group for a little while before taking the test. So, and I work in the industry. So there's like a lot of benefits that I sort of already had. So I sit down and read a single book. I did go through the syllabus, try to find as many holes in the syllabus that I could try to fill in, pull notes from any resources that I could find. So that a great resource would be something like the Oxford Companion to Beer. It's the Garrett Oliver one. So that's one book I highly recommend that you use, because there are a lot of things to look up in that syllabus that I end up using, that book for. And filling in those parts of the syllabus, because again, the syllabus is there, but and they sort of tell you what's going to be on the test, but there's a lot more detail than what's listed on the syllabus. So you have to really deal with write essays on certain parts of the syllabus. So that's sort of what I did. Syllabus and studying through, just like filling out as much as I can. Number two, this is a really big one, is that you need to get all the points you can. And there are two places that I recommend that they're pretty much free points, where there's a place I could lead you to like sort of gain knowledge, but I can't promise you that's going to be something on the test, right? Obviously, yeah. But two places where you can like ideally score 100 are the vitals and the food. So the vitals, I spent 2-3 months studying, and I ended up getting a 93, both on essay and multiple question. I'm actually shocked that I didn't get 100. I've talked to the guys, they're shocked that they haven't gotten 100, because like these are just numbers. Like, you're actually right or wrong. And by the time you get to the test, you have those locked up pretty good if you studied like me 2-3 months and just memorized all the numbers. And 93, I'll take it. Again, if I went in full blind and didn't walk in with passing or with all that knowledge, I definitely wouldn't have passed the exam. So to give you guys an update on how I did, I got an 83, which is like right above where I wanted to be. Obviously didn't want to fail the test, but there's a possibility. The worst case scenario for me would be like passing barely, where you really have to crush the tasting exam. And that's really hard, because then you give yourself no wiggle room, and you're setting yourself up to fail the tasting exam unless you have like a stellar day. Thankfully, I'm like right at the edge where I just have to get a C on the tasting exam and then a D on the oral, and easy peasy, I should be able to pass. So that's something I need to work towards studying, because I am actually going to Fort Worth in the end of September to take the tasting exam. So the vitals are a place that you can lock up points. And then number two is the food. The best part of my exam was actually the food portion. I got 100, I have 100 on the food. And then I think I had 98 on my food essay. So just crush that part of the test. And again, without getting all the food right, I definitely want to pass the exam. So how do you pass the food? The syllabus has the dishes. You just have to memorize the dishes, the cooking, the ways that preparation for cooking on the syllabus, and then memorize some of the ingredients, and just memorize those. And it's literally how you can get 100. The answers are there. The answers are on the syllabus, versus parts, there's parts of the test where the answers are not in the syllabus. You're gonna have to find the answer yourself, right? Like the syllabus lists something like dry hopping. Well, that's useless to you. You're gonna have to, find out all the information, fill in the blanks about dry hopping. Whereas the syllabus lists you all the foods and all, different preparations and ingredients. So that's two places on getting free points. And thankfully, the other part about that is that you may not crush the food section like I did. If you guys already know, the food is something that I'm extremely strong at. I've been watching like cooking show since I was like 5 years old. So I love cooking. Spend a lot of time watching like tons of cooking show content and all that kind of crazy stuff, cooking competitions, Gordon Ramsay content, dive deep into Hess and Blumenthal stuff. I read stuff like, I love Kenji and Babish, everything. I watch everything, man. Joshua Weissman, like all this crazy stuff. Like it's all on YouTube, and I spend a lot of time doing that. So that's just one of the strengths I have. Like some people just aren't like cooking and food people. So that's part of how I did so well in that portion of the test. And yeah, that was huge. So it depends on your situation. This is how I did it because I already had the advantage of all that food stuff knowledge. I will say also was advantage in the sense that I've worked in the industry for like 7 years now, and strangely enough, I only got like a C or in the C's for my keeping and serving beer. That's something ideally as someone from the house, I did crush that part of the exam, but you're gonna have to study the Draught Quality Manual. So sorry, I didn't read a single book. I read the Draught Quality Manual and went up and down on that guy. That is huge. So let's say I didn't have the industry experience and then didn't read the Draught Quality Manual, I definitely would have failed. But thankfully, I had a strong enough score in the C's to keep me afloat, and that's an advantage that I have because there's questions on there. I'm like, ooh, if you just only read books and don't actually have experience behind the bar and changing kegs and dealing with pouring beer and all this other stuff, I don't know if you can answer that. And that's sort of like something that was really specific. I noticed like, oh geez, like you're setting up people that aren't industry people to fail, but that's how hard the test can be. So another part of how I passed the test. And then also another part of how I passed the test was just reading the BJCP. They're going to ask you about styles, and you're going to have to be very familiar with them. And just read through the BJCP over and over and over. I sort of created like guidelines for styles. Like they're going to ask a question, so then I'm going to have to like write like, okay, well, Belgian Golden Strong has this kind of intensity on aroma, malts, aroma. And then you're gonna have to like do malt, yeast, water, hops. Like what degree of intensity are they of that? And then on flavor as well, and the mouthfeel, and then appearance, and just like writing those essays on as many, or not essays, but like faux essays, just like listing like the intensities on each of those styles. It's really useful, and I did that. And that's about it. And then a lot of portions of the test I didn't get enough points on, but thankfully I passed. So that's basically how I passed, just having geeking out for a long time. I've read some of these books like here and there, intaking as much content as I can. Homebrew podcast, geez, like yeah, beer, homebrew, all that, just soaking all that in, and that's sort of how I pass. So how do I recommend you passing if you want to take the test? Let's say you're level 2. Get those free points. I'd recommend that for everybody. Read the BJCP, read the Draught Quality Manual. Those are your Bibles. I would say out of the, I don't know if you guys can see them in the shot, but the yeast, water, blah, blah, blah. You can read all those books. Read all those books except the water one. I don't think they're not going to ask you water stuff, but I didn't read those, and obviously I had left a lot of points on the table and didn't get full points, but there's a lot of answers in there for questions. And so yeah, those 3. Again, the Oxford Encyclopedia on Beer, that one I recommend. Brewmaster's Table by Garrett Oliver. I think that's really important to sort of like, because when you read that book, like it's written by him. He's got a voice and he's a foodie. And so being able to talk like that, because you're going to have to write food essays, be able to like write and like have that mindset of a foodie is going to be really important. Like again, in order to sort of copy like my strength on food, you're going to maybe have to start learning how to cook and, learn these dishes, blah, 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 but you don't necessarily have to. So I don't recommend that as like the way to study, but definitely get those free points. And start being able to talk about food and preparation and cooking. I think you'll be able to do that. I don't think you could just like maybe just read. Yeah, you might be able to just read books and stuff and try to mimic your ability to cook. So, but they're going to have to ask you about that. What else do I recommend? I mean, that's... sorry. One last book, How to Brew by John Palmer. A lot of the kind of like brewing processes kind of questions can be answered by that, despite it being a homebrew book. It's very in-depth. It's very scientific. So that's definitely a book I recommend. And that's sort of the basis. Again, unlike level 2 certified Cicerone, there's no study guide by Chris Cohen. They're actually working on it, but from Beer Scholar. there's no one way I could recommend you just like tear into this test and be able to pass it. I think it really depends on the individual and what kind of strengths they have, and just fill in those holes. If you just walk in blind after just passing level 2, there's a lot of content. I think there's a lot of information that you need to pack in order to pass level 3. So it's definitely a very, very hard test. I'm actually shocked that I was able to pass and got the decent score somewhat decent score that I did. So yeah, I'm really pumped for the tasting exam. You guys post in the comments if you have any questions, because I definitely don't think I answered how to pass this test, but I try to give you a little bit of like what I got, what I did, and then what I recommend. So until next time, guys, cheers. More tasting content coming later.